one of the individuals, Andy over there, who was quite direct in his comments towards us, and I remember it well, and I did agree with him that we were sitting at this meeting. By the way, the meeting was not a town board meeting. It was a meeting that I had received notice of the prior meeting, which was our last work session. So, you know, being appropriately informed was certainly not a matter that could have happened in a week. And, you know, further meetings like this, if they're going to be called, need to be approved by the town board so that we will all have more time to provide information to you, and the town and the village people can come in here and ask us more informed questions. But my recollection of last Thursday was that there was a lot of disaffection among the audience members because we weren't really leading. We weren't giving them the information, and to me it seemed that there was no town camera here, but there were 4 cameras here. 2 cameras were focused on us, 1 camera for the audience. So I'm hoping that somehow or another there is some kind of a record floating around somewhere, since there were 4 cameras here, of what happened last week. I haven't found it yet. I don't think it's going to be on public access, but I would invite anyone, if you find any of it, to please let us know, or please let me know, because I'd like to see it. But the only consensus I saw was that this town board, you know, and it wasn't a town board meeting, that the members that were here certainly weren't giving out any information. It became quite confrontational at times.
Right. And I just hope that whoever controlled those 4 cameras, that the meeting is shown in its entirety and it's not edited in any way, wherever these cameras appear on TV or whatever.
Yeah, I realized, I heard last week also the obsession with the cameras present to film the meeting and whatnot. The bottom line is, for many years, the Village of Brewster has been in a state of decline. That's my belief, that's the belief of others, and anyone with windows in their cars to drive through can make their own judgment about it. We're all adults. So the question is, what do we do about it? As far as the economics, again, not to be cavalier, there is a significant debt overhang, as mentioned. In addition, the Brewster Police Force costs in round numbers, $500,000 a year, as I understand it. And they all go home at 11 o'clock at night. So apparently there's no crime and nothing falls off the truck in the Village of Brewster after 11, because the police force all go home. That's an expensive proposition with, as I have observed, and not to criticize those guys, they are doing their job. They do as good a job as they can. The model doesn't work. And I'm not criticizing the police officers, I'm criticizing the model that employs them. It doesn't work. So, and that is our experience. So the real question is, how much savings can we generate? Can we combine the highway departments? Can we dissolve the Brewster Police Force? Can we rectify some of the extraordinary expenses that the village is imposing on non-village residents, like Peaceable Hill Water District, where the village has conceded 38% of the water bill has nothing to do with water production or water costs. It goes to the Brewster Police Force, it goes to municipal expenditures, and that is not fair. That is taxation without representation by any other name. So that too is an issue that's facing the community. And it is fair last week, and it is fair going forward, to speak to these issues and to determine as a community how to go forward.
Can I make 2 points?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make 2 things regarding the village. Number 1, there have been some positive changes. Look at the railroad station and the parking. That whole thing was redone several years ago in conjunction with Senator Leibel and Metro North, and it's been a great improvement down there. 50 Main Street is an apartment complex for seniors. It's all full. Marvin Avenue is a wonderful complex, all full, mostly senior citizens living there. We have 2 new restaurants downtown. There are 2 new shops. So there has been some movement. There's all this talk about this Best of Broadway program we're having on October 2nd, October 3rd coming up. Those are all positive ingredients. So there has been some movement. So that's one point I want to make. The second point I'd like to make is I think it's important that the mayor of the village and their trustees be partners with us and have equal, I think they should be sitting up here with us as equal players on what's the best move for the village. And lastly, of course, the village people, not the group, but the community in the village, they have to vote on whether they want to consolidate. So I think we forget that. They have to make a decision, and I really have no feel for how they feel about it. I do agree with you on the debt, and I know that we don't want to absorb any debt. We have plenty of issues with budgets on our own time, and we would not absorb, by law, we would not absorb any debt of the village. That would stay with the village. So there are a lot of pieces out there, and I know that Ossining and the village of Ossining are contemplating merging, and there's a lot of legal issues. It's much more than getting petitions, so we have to go about it very carefully, and the lawyers will do well on this.
And I think one of the things that was said at the meeting was basically requested is don't sign any petitions until you get the facts, because otherwise we'll be forced into doing a referendum, and we may not be prepared. It may not be in the best interest. There are state monies available. There is another grant cycle next year, hopefully. I submitted my email address to the office of the New York State Department of State, and who administers these grants, and then the next cycle that comes out, I will be notified, and I think we should apply for a grant to do a study, and if we can get state money to do it, to see if this is something that's financially feasible to do. And I think until we have all the facts, it's not something we should decide, because and as far as the police department in Brewster, I mean, it's more, I believe, closer to $300,000 from what the mayor said. And if it does become a 24-hour police department, they would be more than $300,000. So that's a supplement to the sheriff's department and the state police. The village board made a decision a couple of years ago that they weren't getting adequate police presence in the village, and they determined that they wanted to start a police department to have a police presence during prime hours, and that's when it is. After 11 o'clock at night, the streets are quiet down there. They have the crime statistics. It probably is not feasible to have a policeman in the middle of the night in the village, especially in the wintertime. So that's why their hours are limited. And if they expanded it to a 24-hour police department, it would cost a lot more than it is now. So that's why they go home at 11 o'clock at night, like a lot of communities that have part-time police departments, such as Cold Spring and North Salem and Somers do. It's not unusual.
So our concern as a member of the town board is, and I have to simplify it again, is that we as a town of Southeast have inside of the town of Southeast a 1 square mile block called the Village of Brewster. And it's interesting that you mentioned that about the police department. That 1 square mile within our town has its own police force, which says volumes loud and clear. Do they really need one? Obviously, they just developed it a few years ago. You know, and through the Village of Brewster, you have the state police goes through, Putnam County Sheriff's Department goes through, the DEP police go through, the Metro North police go through, the Brewster Police Department goes through. Is there a problem inside the Village of Brewster? Well, let's get the crime statistics. My concern as a member of the town board is that we as a town board have been told numerous times we cannot address the issues in the village. When we went out and campaigned, members in the village can vote for this town board, and we accept their votes. And we accept their votes because they're looking for help. And as far as consolidation, as far as the solution of the village, this is not something new that we generated. This has been going out throughout the state as well as throughout the county, around the country. And I just read something, there are over 10,000 small separate governments just in New York State. And a lot of these small villages are hurting. And right here in the Village of Brewster, they have millions of dollars worth of debt. And the concern for most of the people is that who's going to handle the debt? And if you live in a town, you're going to say, we don't want part of that. But you have to look at it a different way. If tomorrow the village decides to dissolve itself, or if they go bankrupt, who's going to handle that finance? Okay? Being that it's inside of our community, we don't want it to hurt. And I said this last week, we're here to help. We're not here to go in there and as somebody said, this is a hostile takeover. It's not a hostile takeover. It's us helping a community inside of our town, which has a separate police force, which people are complaining about water rates, sewer rates, illegal immigration, people walking around the community, crime, big city crimes, murders, rapes, robberies, things like that, happening in our community. And I cannot sit here day after day listening to people complain, closing my eyes to their problems. That's wrong. This is a matter that this town board will take up. And many of us complain, oh, last week's meeting told us nothing. That is going to be the first of a series of meetings that we as a town hold. Invite the village to come in, invite the community to come in, and hear what they have to say. But once again, this is a plan that's developed through the state of New York. We're jumping on this because we have a village in our community that is hurting, whether it's through water rates, through people leaving. illegal immigration, crime, police departments, things going out of control. And I understand many nice things have happened, whether it's the train station and things like that. Those are cosmetic issues, okay? Those are cosmetic, solves none of the problems. Day after day, you still have the same old problems. So, as a town board, this consolidation issue or dissolution of the village is appropriate. That's what we as a town board have to look at.
Thanks, Councilman. Member of the public, yes, sir.
Yeah, Jacob Gambino. I'm a resident of Southeast.
Welcome, Jake.
Yeah, I was here last week also. I think you might remember. First, Supervisor Wrights and Councilman Yee, I want to commend you on doing your homework tonight first. It seems like there's been a lot of information that's been disseminated on this topic that wasn't disseminated last week. Or is there no new information? Because I think it's important, especially now with the cameras and everyone out there. I think it's important for everyone out there to realize that last week when there wasn't a public camera, the exact same stuff was said. And the exact same arguments were presented. And, you know, regardless of which side of the argument you're on, it seems like there's been still no legwork. And it seems like you're still only saying what you said last week. So to me, if I was a teacher, I would probably give you an F on your homework because on the agenda, it says it's an update. And in terms of everyone else who was here last week and everyone that maybe somehow watched the magical footage that we're not sure where it ended up, but at least for those that are watching tonight, what they've been saying is the exact same stuff they said last week. So in my mind, it just seems that nothing's been done. So, you know, one way or the other, I haven't made up my mind. I'm sure you haven't either. But I find it, frankly, a little bit insulting when both of you are laughing at each other like this little boys' club, when you, in reality, are the ones that don't have the facts and are merely, you know, spouting your, some of us might say, political ambitions for a village, which, you know, you might take issue with. So,
Sure,
I'm sorry. I was just wondering if. So I wasn't finished yet. Thanks. I just wanted to ask if you guys had any new firm information.
Yes,
I had emailed Supervisor Michael Wrights yesterday. 24 hours is normally his notice. I believe that was the notice he gave to the village board to come and join our meeting last week. So I thought that was an appropriate amount of time to email him and get some information back. I have not received an email back from him, but you know, I thought maybe he would enlighten us with some facts tonight. But it just seems like that's not the case. So I don't need this to drag on. I don't want another comment. I just want to show that I think there's a lot of people in the public here that think you've done nothing in the last week, and I think that reflects poorly on your record. Thanks.
Well, Jay, let me answer you. Okay.
No. I don't want to answer. I didn't ask a question. I just made a statement. So just this isn't an answer. This is just his own statement on top of what I said. Thanks.
Thank you, Jay.
Okay, Jay.
Just a quick. What you and I have been doing, Supervisor Wrights, is fighting through a maze of different items. But a few weeks ago, we actually found some light at the end of the tunnel. 1 Main Street is a town piece of property in the village of Brewster. And we had issues there because individuals were hanging out outside of 1 Main Street, leaning on the town vehicles as well as personal property and things like that. And we have finally, as a town board, agreed to get signage up just in our little oasis, as I call it, in the village of Brewster, to say no soliciting, no trespassing, police take notice. So that is a little start into what we're doing here. And we have to fight this political maze of getting things done. But I commend Councilman Gross for going along with that. We will have signage around there to at least notify people that they should not be hanging around leaning on personal property of the town vehicles as well as personal property, because if we can't even protect our employees and town assets, what message does that send to the community? So I thank Mr. Gross, yourself, and us, myself, for getting that small piece done for at least our community and our
Well,
town.
Jake, I don't think you got any response as far as any new information, simply
Councilwoman,
because that's
please.
something that
Well, I wasn't
happened.
answering
I don't
because
know,
you didn't
why
want
is
an
it that
answer, that's
whenever Councilmember Yee is talking and someone talks him over, there's a little gavel, and it says, you know, don't talk over. But when I do it, I don't know why, I constantly get interrupted. The last thing I'd like to know is, since there was a reference made to being obsessive over the 4 cameras last week, I would just like to ask, does anyone here know who paid for those 4 cameras to be here and where that footage is going to